To mark the 200th anniversary of the founding of the town of Greece, the Greece Historical Society presents a Bicentennial Snapshot. Each week we take a look at a particular aspect of Greece history. Today we will be talking about some historic weather events. In 1815, the largest eruption of a volcano in recorded history occurred. Mount Tambora in Indonesia erupted, spewing so much ash into the atmosphere that global temperatures dropped dramatically in the summer of 1816, causing unusual cold and food shortages. 1816 became known as the year without a summer, or 1800 and froze to death. The volcanic dust carried around the globe on the jet stream covered Earth like a great cosmic umbrella, dimming the sun's effectiveness during the whole cold year. The eastern United States, Europe, and China were hugely affected. It caused widespread crop failures, famine, and 90,000 deaths, many from starvation. The 1815-1816 winter in the northeastern United States was milder and drier than usual. However, just when it should have been getting warmer at the beginning of spring, the weather turned colder and frosts were widespread. Farmers held off planting through April and May. By the first week of June, milder weather had returned and farmers rushed to get their crops sown. On June 6th, a storm brought freezing temperatures and snow. Crops planted only a week earlier were lost to frost. Throughout the summer, the temperatures swung back and forth. No sooner had farmers planted a crop, a frost would wipe out most of the plantings. Cold weather and frost returned again in July. With temperatures in the 40s during the day, people began to worry about famine. On August 6th, another round of winter weather arrived. What vegetation had survived the previous episodes was now destroyed. Once again, another warm period followed, but it was too little, too late. A killing frost came in late September, 2 weeks earlier than usual. Then the winter started again. Many families left New England and migrated west, including to the Genesee Valley and Greece. Our area was still pretty much a wilderness in 1816, and accounts of that summer's impact are sketchy. McIntosh, in his History of Monroe County, says that the cold season produced a partial famine. Wheat couldn't be cut until September, and the corn crop was a failure. Henry O'Reilly, in his sketches, said about wheat, "The cold summer of 1816 was not injurious to our crop." What was our mitigating factor? Lake Ontario, of course. Then as now, the lake impacts our weather. The modifying effects of the lake on temperatures was particularly conducive to fruit farming, and Greece had numerous orchards where farmers grew apples, peaches, and cherries. Lake Ontario is the smallest of the Great Lakes in surface area, but the second deepest, and so is the least likely of the five to freeze over completely. The Canadian Ice Service, CIS, has been keeping statistics since the 1970s. And has calculated the likelihood of the lakes freezing to the point where 90% of their surface is covered in ice. Lake Erie is the most likely to freeze with a chance of 69%. Huron comes next at a 22% probability, followed by Superior at 17% and Michigan at 11%. Astoundingly, the CIS estimates that Lake Ontario has a mere 1% chance of having a 90% ice coverage, which brings us to the winter of 1934. Temperatures in February of that year were icy. On February 9, the thermometer dipped to minus 22 or lower. The high temp that day was minus 3. That is still the official record low for the Rochester area. They did not keep records of ice coverage back then, but anecdotal evidence from both sides of the lake say that Lake Ontario froze over completely that month. Called the Big Freeze by local farmers, it destroyed most of the fruit trees. Apple trees split in half. Never again would there be so many orchards in the town of Greece. 1934, of course, was the height of the Great Depression. Men on work relief earned 25 cents an hour chopping the dead fruit trees into firewood. They also got to keep some of the wood for themselves. Surprisingly, the winter of 1933-34 was not particularly snowy. We have certainly had some memorable snowstorms in this town by the lake. This photo was taken after the March 13-14, 1993 blizzard, which dumped more than 24 inches of snow on Greece. It was part of the larger so-called Storm of the Century, which pummeled states all along the East Coast from the Carolinas to New England with not only huge amounts of snow, but hurricane-force winds. Right now, we're going to take a closer look at the blizzard of '66, which occurred in the days before modern snow removal equipment, such as snowblowers. The blizzard of 1966 was a historic storm for Greece and all of western New York. Nearly 27 inches of snow fell on the last 2 days of January. This was on top of about 8 inches of snow from the week before. Winds whipped wickedly, making for poor traveling conditions. Not only the schools, but businesses and government offices were shut down for a week. Storm headquarters were set up at the town hall. Civil defense, radio operators, and other CD personnel were on duty there, in addition to town police. All town hall switchboard lines were channeled to the offices of Supervisor George Badgerow, Civil Defense Administrator Walter Wheelahan, and Greece Police. By the way, the 911 Center didn't begin operating in Monroe County until February 1986, and Greece did not hook up to the system until several years later. The Greater Greece Post reported that snowmobiles were stationed at the town hall and highway department garage to transport physicians on emergency calls. 2 ambulances also were stationed at the town hall. A supply of milk and bread were kept available for delivery. Some milk trucks and bakeries started selling their products to customers right from their delivery vans, stopped at partially cleared street corners. Toboggans were kept in readiness so that sick or injured persons could be removed over the deep snow. Standby snow-clearing crews were stationed near all firehouses to accompany fire trucks answering alarms. 3 drugstores were alerted so that medicine could be obtained and taken where needed. 50 prescriptions for insulin alone were delivered by town personnel and volunteers. Some residents found an alternative mode of transportation. One never knew what was under the snow. This fellow had no idea he was walking on top of a car. Greece residents had to be patient and wait out for the snow melt. On his 40th anniversary, local meteorologist Scott Hesko still ranked the blizzard of '66 in the top 3 worst storms of all time. Thanks for joining us this week. Next week, we turn our attention to ice and wind events.
Early in this Bicentennial Snapshot, we talk about CD operators. If you are interested in learning more about what it takes to become a ham radio operator or an amateur radio emergency services operator, you can go ahead and go check out the ARRL's website. That's ARRL.org. Or you can check out the local club here in Rochester, the Rochester Hams, at rochesterham.org.
This is Maureen Whalen, inviting you to join us next Tuesday for another Bicentennial Snapshot, presented by the Greece Historical Society.
Want to learn more from the Greece Historical Society and Museum? Then click that subscribe button for more content and hit that bell icon to get notified when there's more Bicentennial Snapshots. You can visit us on the web at GreeceHistoricalSociety.org. You can find us on Facebook at Greece Historical Society. You can follow us on Twitter at GreeceNYHistory. And you can stop in at the Greece Historical Society at 595 Long Pond Road.